Welcome to the Lowell Area Historical Museum's Oral History Project, where residents share their stories of Lowell life. Today is Friday, March 21st, 2025, and I am sitting here with Tom Doyle, ready to depart on an ancestral journey of his family. Welcome.
Talking about growing up in Lowell, I really can't talk about it without talking about the house I grew up in on Lincoln Lake Avenue. It was a quirky house, a lot like the people that lived there. It had a coal chute over on the side. There was a Michigan basement. You had to duck your head to walk down in there. This isn't my actual home, but it's a example of the weird mix of.
Yeah, my house had the same thing.
Yeah.
Michigan cellar, and you were scared to death to go down in it.
Oh,
you thought,
spider webs.
You
everywhere.
thought some monster was down there and going to get you when you were coming up the steps. I always ran up the steps.
Yeah, and just a lot of weird sights and smells down there. You had to go down there during when the tornado warning was sounded. Crawl space.
Oh yeah.
With weird stuff thrown in there. So the thing that you, as a kid, you think these things are normal until you visit somebody else's home.
Well, in our basement, because we basically lived kitty corner from you across the park. We had a cold room where the window where they dump coal into the basement, so you could shovel into your cold stove back in the old days.
So there. A couple other weird things about this place. There was no heat upstairs, which I thought was normal, right?
Well,
sure. But now here, this is current day. There's an air conditioner. There was no air conditioning in this home.
Yeah.
Box fans in the windows. They would blow the air out, so that my parents on the far end of the home, they had the nice cool breeze coming in, and we got the exhaust. But big family. 9 people lived in this home, 7 kids. But a big dining room table. The table was always full. We always had dinner. There were no cell phones. There was conversation that would go all over the place. Current events, politics, religion, you name it. I was kind of a quiet child.
Now I remember your dad. I couldn't picture him, but now that I see the picture of him.
Yeah, there's Earl.
And then, can you name the kids around the table? Who's who?
Earl and Barbara, my parents. Charlie, the oldest. My sister Susan's not in this photo.
Okay.
There's Kathy, Mary, the youngest, Ethel, John, me. Here's a typical guest at the table, Herb Reynolds. There was often,
I forgot about him. Yes,
people at our house all the time.
And then John had the nickname Bia when we were growing up in junior high, right?
Yes,
I remember right.
Yeah, and which he inherited from Charlie.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he ever really liked it, but it stuck. But yeah, it was a happy upbringing. I didn't know much about the home except that my grandfather lived there. I knew that, and that I was told that it was a pickle factory at one time. I found this map. Actually, the Lowell Ledger was selling these way back when, and there's one of these at the Lowell Historical Museum.
Yep.
1870, a bird's eye view of Lowell. So here's the great shot, the Flat River. I'm a West Sider, living on the West Side. There's the Congregational Church, Richards Park.
Yep.
And then on the block that I grew up in, there's only one structure, and it's. I thought, is that the pickle factory?
It might be. We'll have to check into that.
Well, I've done some research on it, and
you did.
I found this article. 1895. Fred Fallis is selling 4 lots in the village, which include a pickle factory and a kraut factory. And the only reason Fred is selling it is because he's got the guitar. He's got to go west. So Catarrh is basically just it could be
cool.
seasonal allergies. It could be gunk in the throat. It's described many different ways if you Google it. I thought, well, he was selling 4 lots. What I wondered about those 4 lots. So in the Historical Museum has these records. You know, here's a plat map. Here's Richards Park right here. I grew up on Elm and Lincoln Lake, formerly known as Virgins, formerly known as Washington Street, which is strange to me.
And like I said, we were kitty corner because I lived I lived on Riverside, just down from Congregational Church. So you go up one more arrow there, right there. That's my house right there. So yeah. So Richards Park was our playground, man. It had a basketball court and all kinds of stuff when we were kids on there.
And then
baseball diamond.
To the west was just open land back there. So I wondered about those 4. Could those be the 4 lots? And I found that record too. This Block 23, lots 1 through 4, but they were not owned by a Doyle. They were owned by L.P. Thomas, which was fascinating to me because I knew my Uncle Earl Thomas lived on the corner. I understood that L.P., who was a member of the Board of Trade, lived in originally from Canonsburg.
Oh, really?
And he brought his family to Lowell around the turn of the century, about the same time as my great-grandfather Doyle brought his family from Parnell. So, but LP bought those 4 lots. He was the one who took the pickle factory, divided it into 2 homes, put one on the corner of Lincoln Lake and Elm, and then the other one on the corner of Elm and Amity, and that was where his son lived, Earl Thomas. LP started a business in Lowell, Breen Elevator. He bought beans, potatoes, and then resold them, and he also had a business on Main Street.
Do you know where that was, the building on
I believe that was across from Larkin's, where the G Hardware was. I think it was in that block, possibly in that same building. Here's a early photo of the elevator on the corner of southwest corner of Main and Hudson.
No longer there anymore.
It's gone now. But it was there in the 90s. Here's a picture of my kids walking down, about to make the big turn from Lincoln Lake to Main Street in the Memorial Day parade. Uncle Sam and Lady Liberty there. Those are my 2 kids. And there's the Thomas elevator. It was later sold to C.H. Runtsman. So, but it sat there for a long time. LP had sold the latest in home innovations, like the combination pneumatic sweeper here. He sold some farm implements and other things, but he built a successful business and did well in Lowell. He, as I said, they grew up in Canonsburg. This is LP right here, and my great grandmother Lydia Jane Hogue, who he married. They owned a chunk of land. The Thomases owned a chunk of land in Canonsburg, and the Hogues owned a big piece out here. This is where Townsend Park is today. This is Ramsdale Road. So they were country neighbors, a few country miles apart, the Thomases and the Hogues.
Yeah.
And so they married and eventually left Canonsburg, moved to Lowell. This is a fascinating picture that was left in the attic of a home my grandfather lived in.
You know what year that is, maybe?
It's 1880s.
I would say 1880s.
Right around there. I believe this to be L.D. Hogue, Lorenzo Dow Hogue.
That's him right there, huh?
And and then Mercy Baker home. I love that name, Mercy Baker.
Okay.
They this may have been taken in Canonsburg, or maybe before they left Pennsylvania and came to Canonsburg.
Wow.
But well, look at these bowler hats. These,
I know.
These dudes
Great
are
hat.
wearing. It's such a mix of Victorian,
Yeah.
English,
A little bit
Western,
of cowboy hats.
a little
Yeah, a little
cowboy.
like cowboy hats right there.
This guy looks like he's straight off the boat from another country.
Yeah. And of course, the ladies had all their hat. They all had the hats. The millineries.
So it was really interesting to me to find out that my grandmother grew up in the house that I grew up in before she was a Doyle. She, her father, LP, or they called him Wad, they called him Lindsay, Linny. He owned the home that I grew up in.
Wow,
and then he split it, like I said, split the pickle factory in two, lived on one end of the block. His son Earl lived on the other end of the block. So there's my great-grandmother on the porch, the same porch that I grew up in, and this was her home. That's my Uncle Tom there. Here's my dad on that porch.
That's it? Okay. That's what, 1920, June 1920. Wow.
He was born in the house next door. So here we are. There's my sister on that same porch, Ethel. Sisters Susan and Kathy growing up. We all skinned our knees on those concrete steps. Running into the home. So yeah, here's Ethel Thomas, and this is my grandfather. Renus was what he was well known as. They they both grew up in Lowell. So now I knew where he grew up, but it was so interesting to me to understand that she grew up just a block away in the home that I lived in. Go back to this plot map here. I grew up on this block. My grandfather grew up right here on the home that
George Dye had.
Where
right?
George Dye had.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. That makes sense. All right.
moved. He left. He brought his family from Parnell.
And you had a lot of the McMahons on Hudson Street.
Sure.
So you had the Doyles, the McMahons. Yeah, that whole area was pretty active. Yeah.
They brought their 5 kids from Parnell and moved to the village of Lowell. My grandfather, Thomas, who I'm named after, and here's Charles, the oldest, then Bertha, then Molly, then Thomas, then William. They grew up just a block apart in Lowell. When they got married, my grandparents got married, they built the home right in between those 2 homes on Elm Street. That's 517. That's where, when I lived there, the Lessons lived there. Yeah. But it changed hands many times. At one time, the nuns from the Catholic school lived in their home.
That's a cool house, too. It still is a great-looking house.
So here's Earl Thomas, the one who lived on the corner. And I believe some of the other people in this photo.
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom left, that's my great-uncle Perrin, who played baseball, was a great athlete, tennis in high school. He went on to U of M to play second base for the University of Michigan baseball team, and he became the captain in 1915. And on that same team was Sisler, that ended up playing with the New York Yankees. So
yeah,
and then over to the right, we have Jim McMahon, which was Frank McMahon's brother. Those 2 were in charge of Lowell Light and Power, started it. So they were the ones that were running around setting poles and getting power through Lowell in the early 1900s. So there's some great pieces of history right there. I'm sure a few more. Yeah. That gentleman right there,
this guy
looks familiar.
That's Roland Schivel. He married my grandfather's sister, Bertha.
All right.
So they lived also right up the street. Yeah. He was a lawyer in town, and
I'll bet you that picture is taken down at the old recreation park.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. Because there was a dirt track down there. I have a picture of Perrin running on a dirt track down there during one of the track meets in high school. So that was that's a great picture.
Yeah, so here's a little reference of the other names in that picture. Earl Thomas married Della Winiger, and they, as I said, lived on Elm Street there. This is a fascinating article about their wedding. The headline, "Not a Fire Alarm," because they kidnapped him on the night of on the night of his wedding, all of his friends. And that's what they did, the hazing that they called a shivaree.
Shivaree, I was just going to bring that up.
And they hauled him down Main Street, and they had fireworks and drums and pots and pans, and it was quite a racket.
Everybody did that back then. It had to be just a blast to do that.
Well, I don't think it was so great. Maybe for the bride, my grandparents, when they got married, it was practically in secret. They did not want their friends to know.
Oh, okay.
And they barely made it to the train station because the word was already out. So Earl and Della had two children, Ethel Ann and Dora Jane Thomas. My parents, and my uncle had the privilege of living next to their cousins right there. This would be Amity Street over here, and pretty much nothing beyond there.
Okay. Yep.
And that's the other half of the pickle factory right there. Ethel Rivette, as people would know her as, was a school teacher in town, and
married Gooley
Rivette. Everybody knew them.
Those two were a lot of fun.
They were a lot of fun. We had Thanksgiving every year at their house. Just big personality, Ethel. Big laugh. Oh my gosh, yes. And her sister Dora was more of the quiet one, but just the biggest heart. Dora, inherited land from her father through her grandfather, and had that big dairy farm out on Virgins and Lincoln Lake that married Jim Cook. And wow, here's a great photo of the Cook side of the family, or the Thomas side. So here's my mom and my grandfather, Renus. Here's my Uncle Tom and his wife, Dorothea, or Dot as we call her, Donna, and Tom Doyle. There's 3 Tom Doyles in this photo. 1, 2, 3. And then here's Earl Thomas right here. Dora married Jim Cook. There's Jim, and there's Gooley, and there's Ethel. That's Gooley way over to the left? That's Gooley Rivette. Oh my goodness. I don't know where this photo was taken. I would think that's probably in the 40s, late 40s. Maybe. But great shot of that side of the family. Oh, yeah. So talk a little about the Doyle side of the family. So this is my great-great-grandfather, Thomas, again, another Tom Doyle, Thomas Francis Doyle. He was in the lumber business. He made his money traveling and getting contracts to buy lumber for companies. And he went as far as the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia. Wow. And spent a lot of time in Arkansas. Here's a couple articles that I had found from the little Pine Bluff newspapers. Mr. Tom F. Doyle, the hustling lumberman, is down from Little Rock today, shaking hands with his many friends. He had that gift. He was just he's often described as genial, jolly, hustling. Here's a little article about Doylestown. There was a lumber camp that became a town near Little Rock, Arkansas. It's no longer there. It's that's interesting. But it was actually named after Thomas F. Doyle, and for a while became a bit, You tried to get some old pictures or something, maybe from a museum down there or someplace? I have found a pretty good article about it. But, oh my goodness! I bet you right now it's got to be something down there. There's not much to it, but So Thomas F. Doyle, when he settled in Lowell, he bought into the bank. He was bank president for a while, and then he bought into the mill, the King Milling Company as we know it. When he died, his interests passed to the three boys, Charles, William, and Thomas, my grandfather. There's Frank King.
Oh, that's King. Is
yeah,
that
that's
King?
Frank.
Oh, wow.
Frank King. So there's, they're the principal owners of the mill.
Right.
This was probably taken in the 30s.
Wow, what a great shot.
My grandfather was treasurer and secretary. He never was president. The presidency was, Charles was president, as was William. But life throws you curves, and unfortunately, my grandfather, a major curve came his way when he was hit by a car right out in front of the mill in 1929. He was in a coma for at least 10 days, and it was pretty dicey there for a while. It was a long recovery for him. He did recover. He did go back to work, but he was really never able to continue in his position at the mill. And he eventually sold his stock back to the company, and that changed my future too. My father worked at the mill. Everybody worked at the mill. I never did, and so I had no real connection to it. It's all in the hands of my cousins now: Brian, Jim, Steve, Paula, and all the others who are and their children who are involved in running it today. It's an amazing business, but it was. My grandfather was, he was a big part of it, but then got out of the business, and so that kind of secured my future with the mill. Wow. But he was a great guy. I wish I had known him. He died. He actually outlived all of his siblings. None of the siblings barely saw 60, much past 60. They just, heart attacks. There was no second heart attacks in the Doyle family. It was the first one, gotcha. But he was a great guy. Yeah, I wish I had known him. But yeah, so that's kind of the family history of me growing up in Lowell. As far as some of the great memories I have of Lowell, there's one of them right there.
All us kids of Lowell. That was our PlayStation. That was our Xbox.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And 25% surprise night on Wednesday nights. Remember, it was 25 cents. You didn't know what movie it was, but you didn't care. You went and got your juju beads, and everybody, all the other kids were in town. Yeah, it was great.
Yes, and it was so close to home, right? I mean,
2 blocks.
It was 2 blocks away.
We only had to walk 2 or 3 blocks.
So yeah, the big memories there. Sights, sounds, smells, the popcorn, the darkened theater.
Yeah. What was your favorite movie there? You got one?
I remember the Dracula movies. They had me so scared. I was scared to go into my own upstairs without. You couldn't turn on the lights to go upstairs without going into the darkness for a little while. Yeah, that freaked me out. I guess it wasn't my favorite, but it was one of the most memorable.
But mine was Old Yeller.
Old Yeller, sure.
And when they put the gun through and shot him at the end, I think every kid in Lowell started crying. I was one of them. Yeah. That's a great memory. There's nothing better than the Strand.
Yeah. Here's the funeral home across the park. Pink. Strange. I don't know why it was pink.
I never. Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that stuck out on my mind. My cousin Gloria Roth, she was a Doyle. She was Charlie Doyle's sister. So we were there for various reasons, good and bad, funerals and just get-togethers. It was right.
So you went over there and played?
Before
it became the funeral?
No, it was a funeral.
Oh, okay.
I remember being in it. The Light and Power Company was something that was always made an
Yeah.
impression on me. All the sounds and how
Because
it
we used to
vibrated.
walk by it, right? When the
Yeah.
big tournament's going and the heat and the, yeah.
Sirens. Remember the noon whistle from the furniture factory? The tornado sirens, the fire. Whenever there was a fire, they'd blow that siren,
And you knew it was lunch. It was noon because at noon it went off because of the lunch, and you could hear it. Probably all the way to Murray Lake, I think. I don't know. It was loud, very loud.
it was loud.
Very, very loud.
And of course the showboat whistle.
Yeah.
You know, growing up near the river, I could walk down there and watch them board the boat, and
Yeah.
I actually was joined the choir on the very last time the boat went down the river, so I had that opportunity.
Oh, you were on that the
I
last trip down?
I did ride the boat
Oh
on
my
the last trip. I was in the choir, and then I found through research that my dad was in the choir in the second year of the showboat.
Well, we that's also when it was a week long, right? Remember, it was Monday
Yeah.
through Saturday, and everybody would walk up Riverside Drive to get on the boat because it would go up, and then the party started. They'd start come down the river, and the band's playing and choirs singing, and yeah, that was a great week. To me, it was better than Christmas. But.
It was just the excitement in the air was really something. Kaiser's Kitchen, you know, it used to be on Amity and Main Street, right on the corner.
Yeah.
I look at that photo, I can still smell the coffee and the root beer and the hot beef sandwiches.
Yeah. And once again, it was 2 to 3 blocks away from us. You could walk to it so easy that, yeah, that's a great picture. I forgot what it looked like way back then. I do remember.
And the phone booth. There was a phone booth there.
Of course, Blair and the family lived in the house right next to it.
Yeah.
It was attached. Yeah.
So that's, I think that's, you know, some of my key memories of growing up in Lowell are those things.
How about did you go up and roller skate up at the Legion Lanes back in the days?
Yeah.
When Jack Adams ran it. And we did all that.
I loved going up there skating. They had the bowling alley down below.
Well, this is really, really, really great. Thanks, Tom, for sharing your memories, your family history, especially because that's a lot of people don't know the late 1800s and early 1900s, you know. So we're going to have this put out on our oral history projects at the Lowell Area Historical Museum, and keep an eye on it because it's going to be fun to listen to. See you later.
I appreciate it. Thanks.